Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
So Logan, back at it. Fantasy Gaming League starting to cook. Had a few weeks off. After an onslaught of about 15 weeks in a row of various games coming out, it almost felt like the season was winding down, but then we've been hit with this hat-trick of games that have been released and reviewed that are sitting here in this Fantasy Gaming League, so we will endeavour to go through those scores in just a moment. I wanted to ask you off the bat, though. We had historically gone through some quick reviews from the Open Critic people, getting the opinions of the media who contribute to the scores, basically. They're the ones that decide it. It's an aggregated score. Do we want to continue doing that?
Yeah, free content, isn't it?
Free content indeed. So
we get to share the opinions of those that haven't consented but have still given it and put the time into that game without doing anything other than reading. So it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In any case, let's kick things off with Oxenfree II, Lost Signals. It's obviously a sequel. I haven't actually played the original Oxenfree, and I've been meaning to, but never have got round to it. And just checking my notes to make sure what I say is not complete bollocks. It is a salmon game. So Ogsworth, Dave Salmon, subbing this in, I believe. So sitting on a 78, obviously falling probably below the standards that are required. But I was expecting this to be a tad higher, if I'm honest, just because there's people like the original. And I believe this is one of the games, or one of the developers, I should say, that Netflix bought and have been working with to bring the titles to the Netflix platform. But they've also dumped it on the other, the usual sort of gaming platform. So, yeah, an 81 for the original. So, in terms of fantasy gaming, that's not a blowaway success, is it? But it's not a disaster either.
No, I mean, if it's in your team, then you take it. But it's
shrug your shoulders and move on, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, but it's those penalties.
Yeah.
Like, basically, you're on a net 73.
Yep.
You have to classify it as a blow.
Oh, Sam won't be pleased to hear that. Anyway, let's get some opinions in. We got Jody McGregor from PC Gamer. Oxenfree is a more mature second run at the walk and talk formula. That's it. 85 out of 100. So, not offering great details in the blurb. Again, this is, I assume, some sort of AI or algorithm that picks out these quotes, because if someone's manually sat there and pulled that out of the review, there can't have been much else. There can't have been, could there? So it must be automatic in some ways. I can't imagine someone's sitting there plucking these quotes out. Probably the last
quote generator.
Well, I'd imagine, I don't know how you'd set the parameters up, but for ease, you'd think, well, they're going to recap their thoughts at the end, so perhaps the last 250 words or last paragraph, maybe that's how it's set up. Don't know. There's no good email in Open Critic to ask, because they never bloody respond. Hall was hounding them about getting a new.
Was he?
Well, because he had Persona 4 Golden at the start of the year, and he wanted them to add that as a new page so he could get the score. Because what they did is they just inserted all the scores into the existing page, so he couldn't have it. And he hounded them for days and weeks.
Did he?
Yeah, he didn't respond or carry out his request. Anyway, we've got Metro Game Central next. Nick Gillett. So they've named and shamed this particular individual. Usually they keep it close to their chest and just say it's this rogue website making up its own reviews. This slightly spooky sequel continues its tale of real people in strange situations, picking up the story and characters of Oxenfree and retaining its style and puzzle-adjacent gameplay. 7 out of 10. So those consistently will drag the scores down. Based on what you've heard, interested or not?
No.
I'm just going to check whilst we're on air, actually, because I think this is on Netflix, like the mobile app. You could go off and play it, I believe. I could be wrong, because the original's on there now. I've never sat down and played a game on there, I must say. but it's clearly something they're trying to do.
I don't. I have no idea. I mean, it says available on PS5, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, PC. Why is OpenCritic not saying Netflix?
It's in the Netflix app. You can see it here.
Interesting.
Recently released. Well, it's not number one in the recently released. So for their own studio, you think you'd put that first. But Too Hot to Handle. Yeah, Too Hot to Handle is top.
Would you try that? I mean, I gather you would.
Too Hot to Handle?
Well, I mean, you got to be careful around what that might be.
Sonic Prime Dash. That's the other one that's ahead of it, and then you get Oxenfree II. Would I try this
like
Netflix?
Cloud, Netflixy gaming streaming stuff.
To be honest, I was thinking of playing the original Oxenfree through it, just as an experiment. But then I was like, this is probably objectively one of the worst ways to play the game, considering it's available on all other platforms. And it's kind of like, then again, what do you lose? You lose a bit of. Like I've said before, I just find it's uncomfortable looking at screens that are in my hand all day. It does me neck in, so it's why I have to stand up, as some of the visual viewers will see. I'm standing up because these postures get blown away. So I don't know. Maybe I will, because
I agree with you though.
It's all bundled into the Netflix subscription.
Why would you play it over if it was say on an Xbox Game Pass? Say that, for example, over a net. Like, you're always going to do that on Xbox. Like, why would you? Then this is what concerns me when some of these things branch out, and we're diversifying immediately on the podcast. But like, what are you adding? Like, if you're going to diversify, if your bread and butter is films and TV series, what are you going to add by game streaming? Like, arguably you add additional content, but if you're branching out, like Amazon going to do food shopping, what are you adding? We've already got
convenience.
Yeah, but we've already got all of this.
Yeah, so, but you got Ocado trying to get a stranglehold on it, charging
but what
silly
I'm saying
money.
is you're trying to penetrate a market that's already penetrated.
They can't. Like, they just can't sit on their hands. These companies, can they?
This is the thing,
they're
though.
All
like,
growing arms and legs.
Sit in their swim lane. Like, and I'm all for experimentation if you think you can do something differently or better. But if you can't objectively do something different and better, why bother? Why plough fucking capital into it and spend time and effort on it? It really pisses me off. Such a waste.
Well, it's because they make too much money as it is, so it's of no consequence.
Well, they go, well, we either give it in tax or we spend it reinvesting, so what do we do? And then they come up with some load of odd bollocks that doesn't work.
And they go, that bloody inflation's eroding at our capital, let's just get rid of it and invest it somewhere, get it off the books, or it's just going to float away.
Fucking, it really is bizarre. But anyway, I ain't running one of these companies. So.
Netflix is a bit of an odd one in itself. I think you can play these games on the TV somehow. I mean, they had the Minecraft story mode version of it in the main Netflix offering at some point, and I watched one of the nieces or the nephews put it on, and it was just like you just choose on the controller basically some of the choices. But yeah, it's a strange one. I don't think anyone's going to sit there and say this is going to take over the world of gaming, but it's a real hodgepodge as well, because a lot of these games I'm looking at, I mean, Too Hot to Handle, simulation game it claims, that clearly to me seems like traditional mobile game. Yeah. But then you've got something like Oxenfree, because they bought the studio, they purchased this studio. That's more of a. It's not even a traditional game, because it's really not. It's more of a narrative game, but it's not a mobile built game with.
Yeah.
You know how those sometimes are structured. So who knows? Anyway, it's sitting on a 78 for Salmon, which is gonna probably a bit of a mixed response for him. Pikmin 4's up next. So this is actually in your Grand Prix team. Another sterling effort, it seems, sitting on an 88 as we record this. First of all, score-wise, pretty good for you. Again, it's another high 80s game. You've only got two remaining, which is Mortal Kombat 1 and then the trusty Football Manager, which always scrapes an 80, and it's either low to mid, usually, or sometimes a higher. Again, looking pretty. Average of 88, 692. Parky's average 79, but he has only got 4 games out. Confidence must be high. We're over halfway through the season now, and you're almost in feet-up territory.
I mean, you want to get there, didn't you? It feels like both of those games should be 80 pluses.
Yeah.
Like, if Football Manager might have an off year, but they've done that thing, haven't they, where the women's thing's now included, so that will get a buff from the fans. They'll love that.
We're going to revisit that later if we don't run out of time.
Yeah,
got an update.
So yeah, it's gone better than anticipated. Is probably how I'd phrase it. And I looked at the lineup at the start, and Homeworld was a blow, and then Suicide Squad was a blow. But those were the only two ones. I think what we've subbed it in for have been solid and have looked solid, and yeah, I think it's gone reasonably well.
Yeah, that's a good score, and Pikmin 4 looks kind of interesting from what I've seen. Let's get a critical response. We've got Jada Griffin from IGN. Pikmin 4 adds variety to the series' traditional gameplay by offering options other than grab and throw formula of the past, and brings an extra helping of top tier levels after the credits roll. So there's an end game there. Now, is that a spoiler for some people? I don't know. Giving away end game. And again, every game's got end game these days. Nothing ends on the credits, does it? It's always like back you go. What do you mean back you go?
Over 200 hours, you go, what?
Well, yeah. Got a 9 out of 10. So that's pretty good. Let's return to Metro Game Central. This time it is just Game Central. So this AI that they've built that's reviewing games on their behalf is giving its opinion here. Nintendo successfully reinvents Pikmin as a Stardew Valley-style cozy game that's both much bigger and much more approachable than ever before. 8 out of 10. So solid scores. Now, we know that Switch isn't really getting picked up by people. We even had Adcock in the Dimp group saying, I ain't picking up that Switch until Mario, I think he said 3D Mario arrives. Nothing more, nothing less. Are you still, I mean, you've got a 2D Mario coming later, so the dust off could happen there. But do these positive reviews for Pikmin give you a little bit of a second thought to maybe just dive in? Because I've always liked the idea of Pikmin, but because it's been on systems I've not owned, I've never dived in. And now we've got a back catalogue of 1, 2, 3, and now 4.
Yeah.
Maybe one day if I clear my plate, there's a chance.
Well, there is a chance. You're absolutely right. I mean, I played a game a little while ago called Tinykin, which is kind of, I've heard, a bit of a Pikmin rip-off in some ways.
Pikmin Light.
Yeah, but I liked that, but I also liked that light element of it, right? So I liked this kind of stripped down, simplistic, feet up palette cleanser that I played. I mean, the scores on this are clearly like resoundingly positive, and it seems like one of those easy games when you just want to sit down and not get stressed out for an hour or two in the evening. It might tick a box, but it's always that same thing for me with the Switch. It's like, do I sit downstairs with it in handheld mode, or do I sit upstairs with it docked? Yeah. And neither are ideal, and that's where I always end up getting snarled up with these. Yeah, don't know where on how to play it.
It is a tricky one. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're never going to run out of games to play these days.
No,
it really is ridiculous, actually, how much stuff comes out, and perhaps it's all not at top tier AAA level, but in terms of even stuff that's a level below that, and then obviously in the indie space, it's just
there's a lot.
They could stop making games today, I think, and you could, for a number of years, perhaps a few decades, rifle through some good games that you probably thought, I wouldn't mind trying that, but I just don't have the time, or it's just not going to win out on the priority rankings and get to the top of that menu. So these decisions, unfortunately, have to be made regardless of quality of the game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, unless I get some weird desire out of nowhere to play it, I might keep an eye on that Switch store and see when it sort of comes down to some sort of acceptable price and jump into it, because I inevitably will like it. Like, I don't think I doubt that. I'm also trying to think if I've got sort of like holiday coming up where I might be spending some time in a barn or whatever it is, like in a B&B, and I might just sort of game that I could take on holiday. So yeah, we'll see. But I think the score is definitely higher than I thought it would be. I mean, you hope for those sort of things, but very rarely do they come along.
No, another good to great score for Nintendo. I mean, we gave them their mid-year review a few episodes back, and setting off in the second half with the same sort of pace and cadence. And
it's an ideal Switch game.
Oh
you can see why they. But I don't think that might be the highest scoring one. Like, I don't think I've gone back and saw 88s lurking for Pikmin in the research before it was picked. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're quite old, the earlier ones, especially like going back to the N64, so there won't be any OpenCritic sort of stuff lurking. I'm not even sure if Metacritic was tracking. Well, it would have been, but
they must have re-released Pikmin 2 at some point. That's on an 80.
Yeah, I think this probably is the highest scoring one. To be honest, I think even the remaster they did of 3 didn't do high 80, so it's there for people, and
interesting.
People can jump into that. Nintendo continuing to have a great year, and the slate they've kind of shown us for the rest of the year looks pretty good as well. So, laughing if you're into all that. Remnant 2 is up next. This is a Salmon Grand Prix pick. Claims it's a Souls-like. So there's always a concern when those sort of games get levied out. Anyway, it's sitting on an 81 on OpenCritic, which is no disgrace, but probably want to get to the 85s where possible. Travis Northcutt from IGN, Thai guy Travis. Yeah? Where Remnant from the Ashes was a strong first draft, so I'm assuming that's the first game, Remnant 2 is a revolutionary sequel and a sterling manifesto for the looter-shooter Souls-like. I mean, I didn't know there was a manifesto out for looter-shooter Souls-like, if I'm honest.
Tick it off. Tick.
That's a new one for me. That people
story, tick.
People were pulling together all sorts of bits and pieces for that sort of category, but that's got himself a 9 out of 10 from IGN, so he's obviously loving it. GameSpot next. Richard Wakeling. Remnant 2 builds on its predecessor to create a rewarding and unpredictable experience that's difficult to put down. 7 out of 10. Not sure that description matches the score, Richard, but again, probably not your fault because OpenCritic decides what's pulled out. But
just got onto these reviews.
Yeah.
And I've just seen the second one down from Polygon.
Yeah.
Are you going to go on to that?
No, I'm not. Go on, you can do it.
It just made me laugh.
Read it out.
So Ian Walker at Polygon, top critic, has given it an unscored.
They don't score things.
Oh, okay, right. That's why it is.
Yeah.
But it just made me laugh. It said, I'm over the post-apocalypse. It's going to take one hell of a game to get me interested in such a bleak setting for the foreseeable future. Remnant 2 is not that game. It just made me laugh when I saw it because I was like, Ian's just done with it. He's
sick of it.
Sick of these. And it's a fair point, right? Because it's such a common setting for a lot of games, whether it's zombie, whether it's this, that, or the other. Like this post-apocalyptic setting has become a real norm. I don't know what he means. You just get a bit like, for God's sake, do something different.
Yeah. So it's a tricky one, but useful setting to have in a game because you can just have a sparse world and not.
Do what you like with it as well.
Yeah.
You can make up your own story, but I do sort of know what he means. It just made me laugh because I was like, the first thing I saw was, I'm over the post-apocalypse. I was thinking, I'm right with you, Ian. I'm right with you. I mean, it's not my bread and butter anyway, but.
Gone. In terms of a Grand Prix, that leaves Biff's still on top because he's got 9 games out. No one else has got 9 games out. Salmon's next. He's got 8 games out. He's 76 points off the pace. Paper's next with 7 games out. He's 169 points off the pace. Hall and Adcock sitting there very closely with 5 games apiece each. 3-2-7 and 3-3-2 respectively. Adkins still bottom, but he's only got 2 games out and his average is 92. Salmon's got the next highest average with 80. So if things track as to how they're performing, and the others who have got 7 and 8 and 9 games can't do much to change their average, it's going to be that's pretty much locked in. Adkins is the danger man I foresee there. That can kind of ramp up in this second half. I look at some of his games he's got in there. Baldur's Gate 3, that's now been signed off as approved because the page has been taken down off OpenCritic, so that'd be a fresh slate. That's going to be 90s, I can almost assure you of that. Spider-Man 2, that's above 85 unless something goes wrong. Yeah. Forza Motorsport, that's probably going to be in the 80s. Tekken 8, I'd suggest high 80s. Has got some perhaps banana skins there. Lords of the Fallen, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, The Day Before. Mortal Kombat 1
has been lurking for years.
Yeah, and that's the team that was in Ukraine. So once that all kicked off, it just it must have just blown them to pieces. Not literally, that's the wrong term to use, but it's really ruined their processes. That was
Didn't
on
laugh,
purpose.
but yeah,
Well,
really,
maybe that was a faux pas, that one.
yeah.
But anyway, this is Idle Game Chat, Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast.
I don't know what we do about this.
No, you just carry
Can't
on.
believe
Yeah.
that.
But what do you do? Like, I mean, I could stop and edit that out, but I mean, I always think those poor bastards on air when they get tangled up in things. The fact they're just sitting there, it's then captured on Twitter forever, and they're immortalised as a moron. And it's like, well,
know.
they've probably been sitting there.
Is,
they've done hundreds of hours of broadcasting, and one mistake
I know.
is
That's
what they
it.
get
A
home
career
for.
ruined.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh because for you, that's such a generic standard term.
I know. Yeah.
It's just literally because it is. It's caught you out right at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that's so unfortunate.
It's
but
custom.
Anyway,
Should have used that.
welcome to Dimp Digital.
This is how it rolls. Anyway, patreon.com/Dimp Digital is where you can go to put your hands in pockets to support the podcast. It is grassroots, it is independent, and it is a load of babble. Anyway, let's transition into some
Can
items.
I just
yes?
raise one thing before we get on with the agenda that I wanted, and I don't know if it's actually on the agenda because I haven't seen it, but I don't want to labour the point, but reviews for Exoprimal are out.
Right, I thought about it, but
I just wanted to acknowledge it because you and I think, discussed this some time ago and went, what are you doing?
I mean,
and it looks very. I mean, to say it looked mid would have been generous, right?
the fact that it ended up on Game Pass is now a signal for some of these third-party games that they know they ain't going to be great. But Phil said, "I'll cut you a check," and they're like, "Of course,
yeah,
because that's not going to fucking sell at retail." It's got a 68 on OpenCritic, so it's not great at all. And it's on Game Pass, so people can try it with little or no risk other than flushing their time away. But yeah, it was, and I think actually I was complaining about Phil taking my money, which I see it as I'm like a shareholder in this Game Pass journey, and he's handing it out to any old shit sometimes, and it annoys me that he flushes my cash away on this.
Yeah, it does. We discussed a little while ago, right, about how the comeback of Capcom.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and I think we did highlight this one at the time as potential. What are you doing? And I think we said they're just giving it to someone to scratch an itch in the studio or something. But I played a little
vanity
bit.
Project. You've played it.
Well, I played a little bit of the beta.
Okay.
Just to see whether it looked and was as bad as
what you thought it might be.
And it wasn't good. Like it really was not particularly engaging at all. And it does just make you wonder, doesn't it, when they're doing this sort of stuff? I mean, 27% of critics recommend as well. Like it's really, really not great for them. Like what are we doing? Like you know. This is what annoys me, and it has to be said, like a 68 isn't like down in the bins, like, but it's also it's mid, it's so mid, and I think that's generous as well to them, by the way.
Yeah.
I just thought those reviews are out, and I just thought it was interesting for us to just quickly touch upon it and say what you're doing and justify it. I mean, it's a game that we both sort of went, oh, could be interesting in the same way that we thought. Oh God, I've absolutely erased it from my mind now. Xbox Game Pass flop.
There's loads of them. I can literally write a list of 100 games.
Literally the biggest flop of the year that Phil come out and went, yeah, thank you. So I think it's similar in the way that we sort of looked at Redfall and went, oh, could be interesting.
Yeah.
And just listen, like this was a little bit like that. If it surprises us, could be interesting. But unfortunately, it's another one that falls by the wayside.
Yeah, it's a shame. And Capcom haven't been putting out crap recently, but you can I don't know. Just the first time I saw it, I thought, "What is that?"
Yeah,
and
it's so banal as well. By the way, like it's just so like not a game. There's no complexity. Like really, in my view, it's so like mind-numbingly just shoot a load of. It's just a horde game at its heart, and it's like with dinosaurs that appear through portals. Like you know, when you just go, "What are we doing?"
We couldn't contextualise the dinosaurs; they just come through a portal instead.
Well, it's like framed in some sort of AI training simulation. Like, there's so many weird layers to it as well. That it's literally just like, what are we doing here?
I'm telling you, someone who done a good job 2 years ago sat there and went, "I want to do this," and they went, "All right, off you go," and just to keep them quiet, I recken.
Strange.
And that's what's come out.
Yeah,
of it.
I just quickly wanted to touch on that and acknowledge that it's just flopped a little bit with the critics as well.
You can always tell it doesn't look interesting because none of these morons put it in their team because they get tricked several times a year usually, these fantasy gaming league scrubs. They're normally always struggling. Always fall down a few traps, but even this one they were smart enough not to fall down. So
I am surprised because it's easy to go Capcom,
Yeah.
like take it, but yeah, you're right. No one's even gone anywhere near it.
no one's bitten at it. European video game sales for June.
Yep.
Chrissy Dring back in action. 15.5 million games were sold across the continent last month.
Good lord.
Okay. 5 million games were sold via physical retail. The remaining 10.5 via digital download stores. It's a 20% improvement year over year. So if you compare June of 2022 to 2023, driven by a number of major new releases. This is Dring's commentary, not mine. Diablo 4 was comfortably the best-selling game of the month. And it's the second fastest-selling game of the year behind Hogwarts Legacy. Zelda is the third fastest-selling, but is missing its digital download data. So I would suggest...
You'd expect that to be top, wouldn't
top
you?
or...
That's
Yeah, I think that's easy. It's safe to say that. So it's possible that Diablo 4 is, in reality, number 3 in terms. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. They've made a shitload of money. 66% of the sales for Diablo were on PC, 21% on PS5, and just under 9% on the Xbox Series consoles. The remaining 4% was on PS4. So we're seeing this. I mean, there's no Xbox One data there, but maybe no one bought it on that. But we are seeing that despite there being far less PS5s in circulation, that people are more active in the spending market for new stuff if you've got a PS5, and that the people on the PS4 are slowing down a bit. Not surprised at the PC split there, 66%. That's a massive, dominant kind of platform there, but that's how I kind of always expected it to go. Second place for the month was Final Fantasy 16. 24% down when compared against 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake. So that's interesting. But again, maybe this is just making excuses for them, but was on the PS4 at the Final Fantasy VII Remake, so the install base was higher, and we didn't have the PS5s out, and this is a PS5 only game. So that could be it, or it could be 70 UK pounds and 70 fucking euros stinging people, and they're going, I'm not doing that. But yeah, that's interesting. Also, it does cite here, Chrissy Dring, again, this is his commentary. That game was released just after the start of COVID and the lockdown started. So there is a presumption that at that point, people just went out and bought entertainment and more sort of things like that. That kind of caused a bit of a spike, but I think maybe we're reaching a little bit there. Anyway, let's get into the top 10. Diablo 4, as we said. Final Fantasy 16. FIFA 23. Won't be long, and then it'll be EA Sports FC 24 lurking. Breath of the Wild. No, not Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom's next at number 4. GTA 5 still lurking at 5.
Fucking hell.
F1 23 at 6. Hogwarts Legacy at 7. That's got some legs. Red Dead Redemption 2 at 8. Street Fighter 6 at 9. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at 10.
Madness, isn't it? It's madness that people are still buying Red Dead 2 and GTA 5.
They are great games, but yeah.
They are, but...
GTA 5 came out on the 360.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It's absolutely baffling. Genuinely, I want to meet someone that's buying that and ask them, what are you doing? I want to get 10 people in a room and go, why are you buying it? Like, make me understand, because I genuinely don't. I don't know whether it's... That is game sales, right? That's not like revenue.
Yeah, these are sales, so it's just units shifted. So I guess if a game is on sale, sometimes you'll see it pop in there because more people go to it because it seems like a good deal. But yeah, the revenue is not considered in this chart. It's in terms of
it's not even people buying those fucking packs and cars.
It's not correct.
Madness. Yeah, I honestly, I'm genuinely speechless for it. I mean, fair play to Rockstar.
Yeah.
Like, what else can you say? But the whole thing is bizarre. Anyway, let's not labour that anymore.
I like to do the game sales. I stopped doing them for a while, but it does just keep us honest with critique. because the assumption is that we know everything, and sometimes the sales just tell you what's going on outside of the bubble, doesn't it? And you're like, well, that's what's really happening. So
there's people still playing GTA 5 and
Yes.
Red Dead 2, so work that out.
yes, just over 500,000 game consoles were sold across Europe, which is up 33% over last June.
Cost of living crisis, what are we doing?
Wow, this is due to a spike in sales in the PS5. This is what Chrissy Dring says. Up 116%.
Doubled then.
Doubled. Just put the prices up as well, so laughing, aren't they? Switch sales are down slightly by 2.3%, and Series S and X sales are basically flat, slightly down by 0.8%. So it doesn't matter what people keep telling me about this Xbox being the place to be. It ain't materialising like that on this continent, is it? It's still Sony land in Europe, and they just can't seem to be stopped, despite all the grief we give them. They carry on walking through and going, we'll put prices up and laugh all the way to the bank.
Phil should be showing that data when he's hauled in front of the course around the competition stuff and go, look, underdog over here, doubled.
They did. They did produce some sort of slide that was like, we're like, I think it was worldwide, and it was like 30% versus 70%. Which will, if we get time, we'll get to a point where this is where Phil talks out of his arse. In fact, I'll just mention it now. So what Phil... we might as well just fucking get up him. So we've got this binding contract for Call of Duty that's been agreed by Sony and Microsoft to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, basically, for a number of years. So Phil Spencer comes out and says, we're pleased to announce that Microsoft and PlayStation he tagged PlayStation in it as well, did the clever boy, just to make sure they were looped into the conversation, have signed a binding agreement. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny to see a high level exec just like tagging companies and things like that. Anyway, having signed a binding agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, we look forward to a future where players globally have more choice to play their favourite games. Now, in his own data and in Xbox's own data, they've shown that there's between a 70 and 80%, 80-20, 70-30 disparity between the two companies in terms of who's got consoles where worldwide. How is putting Starfield only on Xbox giving it more access to global players when you're the fucking third place blowers? How? It ain't, is it? It's a lie. This is what annoys me about Phil sometimes. Is this facade of like, we're going to make it available to more devices everywhere. It's like, well...
Don't produce first-party games that only appear on your own console, then.
Of course.
It's the answer to that, but it's like...
We know why.
Never going to happen. Yeah.
We know why. Because it's...
I don't know why they don't just say, look, we're a business. We're running a business.
Because, and then we'll get to this, they're doing a very good job of rallying a fan base behind them. Just whatever they do, there's an excuse that comes out for it. Game price has gone up a few quid. Oh, that's all right. It's good value. Why is that the response? Taking more money out of your pocket, you daft cunt. Got these windows open, so neighbours are hearing that, but they're used to it at this stage. Anyway, got me slightly off track there. That's the European sales data. We'll jump into Xbox as it goes. So Xbox Live is being replaced with Xbox Game Pass Core. That's a real shit name. Nothing's changing. Well, I say nothing's changing fundamentally. There are fundamental changes, but the price ain't changing. Okay, so don't be worrying about that. I think it's £6.99 a month, £7 a month for Xbox Live.
This is
Gold.
the classic chocolate bar thing, isn't it? Right, where the price stays the same, but the chocolate bar don't get bigger.
They get smaller. I got a pack of Mars bars the other week. They're fucking tiny.
Yeah, and now you have to buy a Duo if you want a regular size.
Yeah. Disgusting.
So this is where they get you. They half the size of it and keep the price the same. So are Microsoft doing the same thing?
Well, kind of, I guess is the answer. So this Xbox Game Pass, or is it just called Game Pass Core? No, Xbox Game Pass Core. It's important to have the Xbox on it because they don't call PC Game Pass Xbox PC Game. They've scrubbed it all off anyway. That's neither here nor there. They've put together this nice little form for us so we can easily understand it. It's got tick in the boxes so we know what is and what isn't included.
A nice little form with ticks in the boxes.
Game, and the question is, it's on their own website. How is Game Pass Core better than Xbox Live Gold? That's the headline question they've wrote. And here's their response. Game Pass Core brings the benefits of online console multiplayer from Xbox Live Gold, plus access to a compelling and diverse catalogue of over 25 high-quality console games that you can enjoy on your Xbox Series X/S or Xbox One console, all at the same great price of Xbox Live Gold. Now, what they don't mention there is that your monthly games that you've been getting are gone. So that's what's replacing it. You were going to get a static-ish list, because they said, I think 2 or 3 times a year they're going to add to this 25 game catalogue. They've not said whether they're going to take things on or off it. Presume that there may be some things coming off in the far distant future. But you still got your online multiplayer. It's got a tick in the box. Games library. It says 2 games a month with games with gold. That's in the Xbox Live column. Now you've got a catalogue of over 25 high-quality games. Now, when we go through the list of games, there's some that aren't high quality. Simply a lie. Anyway.
I was going to say, that's absolutely subjective.
I know, it's complete bollocks, but who cares, really? Member deals and discounts of up to 50% on selected games. That's a tick in the box for both. Play selected fully featured games on free play days. Tick in the box, and the price is the same. So let's do the 25 games. Among Us, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Elder Scrolls Online, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4. Fallout 76, the first one that comes to mind when you tag fucking high quality to it. Forza Horizon 4, so from 5 years ago. Gears 5, Grounded, Halo 5 Guardians. Now, why ain't Halo Infinite on here? It ain't blowing the doors off things, is it, in terms of sales of players? It's a free-to-play multiplayer game. Why not just bung the Halo Infinite campaign on there? Anyway, Halo Wars 2, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, Human Fall Flat, Inside, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, not the first one, Psychonauts 2, and State of Decay 2, Juggernaut Edition, which did review poorly when it launched, but I've heard it's in better shape. So that's the games you're getting. From our perspective, we're Game Pass Ultimate members. Now, what this essentially means for us is we've gone from getting 2 games a month extra to getting nothing. We get nothing for this change. We actually lose access to those 2 games a month, which is neither here nor there. Some people have you believe. So I guess my questions are, got a few. Is this overdue? Because people have been saying this fucking Xbox Live Gold is a sack of shit. It's not worth... The games they offer are absolute garbage. And this is a nice, easy way to rebrand it, freshen it up, and perhaps a static-ish list of 25 games that maybe a few are added each year is better than 2 lots of shite every month. Where do you stand on that?
I think they have historically released some okay games on that.
Yeah,
Xbox.
back in the day it did.
Like, I don't think...
You can draw a line. Here's the thing. You can draw a line from quality of Xbox Live offerings and Game Pass launching. As the years go on, that number goes down and Xbox Game Pass goes up. So we could see where the money was going at some point.
Yeah. And I'm I can understand why. I mean, the answer is yes, it is overdue. Like, I think you could argue that Xbox Live Gold in of itself was running its course, but then again, you could pay £45, £40 for the year, and just be done with it. Right now, you're basically getting tied into this monthly subscription piece where that seems to basically be gone.
That's a good point, actually, because they did and have removed most of the annual Game Pass subscriptions, and actually, they only mention the monthly sub here, so that's a good point. I don't know if you can. It didn't launch till September, I must say that. So September the 14th. So that'd be interesting to track, actually, whether there's any 12-month options for this. Because if there's not, you're right. Those that are doing annual savings will be down the pipeline of... Phil wants to know that you're paying up every month so he can track it with Alan. And they can say
and simply as well, it goes from £40 a year to... I mean, I don't know what that equates to a month when in monetary terms, but it'll probably be like £7 a month or something for gold. So, you're looking at or core, whatever they want to call it, and for the arguably the same thing. All right, you get more games, but you don't get 2 different games every month. You get this catalogue of over 25 high. So it's going to be a minimum of 25 high quality games.
Yeah.
We don't know the regularity at which they change. Like, we don't know the regularity in which they drop in and drop out. If they're going to be fucking God knows how old, like Halo 5 bloody Guardians, like largely if you wanted to play that, you would have done by now.
You shouldn't. If you're thinking about it, don't waste your time. I was
going to say, don't even bother if you haven't. Skip it. But yeah, I mean, when I look at if I didn't have this, and when I look across this list, there's nothing there that I would play.
Yeah,
I mean, I might have played Ori and the Will of the Wisps, maybe Psychonauts 2, Human Fall Flat I've played already. Like beyond that, like you're not going to get this, and I'm going to get it because of games. Like the games are a boon for it, but basically what you're paying for is that online capability. And arguably, do you even need that? Because they took away the requirement to do online multiplayer for free games anyway. So if you're playing Warzone, if you're playing Fortnite, Apex, you don't even need it.
Yeah.
And things like that. Like you don't even need it. So
no, that is a good point. What's actually interesting is that it's going to be essentially 4 tiers of Game Pass now. So you're going to have core, console, PC, which is kind of its own thing. Like PC only is actually probably the best value proposition, which I may get into if I can be bothered. And you've got Ultimate, which combines everything, including PC. So if you're across 2 platforms, that's really useful to have. But if you just want to have Game Pass console, and this is how it stands at the moment, I can't imagine this will stay the same, but who knows? You get access to all those games. You know, we get the monthly day one drops. We get the, all the good stuff. You get a catalogue of 250 games or whatever they quote these days. But you don't get online multiplayer.
Sorry.
You have to pay for Ultimate or have PC Game Pass, where you don't need online multiplayer payment to have it. So if you have Game Pass Core, you can play online in a paid game. So let's just say Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you've got Game Pass Console, which is $8.99 a month, so a couple of quid more expensive, you can play online. You need the Ultimate Edition to get it.
I remember this when I was going through it, because arguabably...
It feels like a mistake or an oversight, but...
I was like... Because I remember going through it, and I was like, right, so I can either have Xbox Live Gold and not have Game Pass, or I basically have to have Ultimate. And I was like, I don't understand this. Like, why do I need? Why? Like, it was a really weird thing, and it felt like you're just getting done up the arse to go for the higher package. It's a really odd way of setting it up. So I'd agree. Like, you'd expect the lowest tier to be consistent throughout the higher tiers.
Yeah. So if you go in a higher tier, you get everything, including the lower tier plus in addition. I think they'll change this because it just seems so weird to keep it like that. But as it stands at the moment,
though, if that console gave you online and full like library access, what would you get for Ultimate?
What do you mean?
Right. So you said at first, like, Ultimate is a blend of PC, Game Pass, and essentially console Game plus online. So it's everything. You get the whole lot. Like, if they added, say, I don't have a PC.
Yep.
So there's no need for me to have PC Game Pass because that laptop ain't even turning on these days, let alone playing anything.
Stream it.
Honestly, there's a breakdown at the base. Emails are a tough thing to ask of it these days. Like, it's literally like dead on its deathbed. It's given up the ghost. But anyway, so what I really need to understand is they need to realign the offering. Like, what does a console, as a console player, why do I need Ultimate? I think it's basically what I'm going to get to. And it's like, do I get the EA access? Do I get...
Sure, yeah, correct.
Like, that sort of stuff,
so you do get... I mean, Ultimate's clearly the best deal if you can afford it. Yeah. So you do get cloud access, which you don't get on standard console. With take it or leave it on that. You get free perks, which are like in-game content and partner offers. So I had something like... You get 6 months of Apple Plus or something. Like, you get weird stuff like access to that. And yes, like you mentioned a moment ago. What did you actually mention? What was your point?
Was it like EA?
Oh yeah, and
access and all that crap?
You get EA Play rolled in as well. Yeah. So you do get a lot more for your money at that stage. But if you were happy on if you're happy on console, I think if you're happy on console, nothing's changed again. I guess it hasn't been ripped away, but it does just seem like a strange setup somewhat. That your lowest,
I think they need to realign it, didn't they, a little bit?
Yeah, your lowest and second tier has got a feature which is on the lowest tier, but not the second tier, and whatnot. But
it's because it was always positioned that Game Pass run alongside, like Xbox Live Gold. Everyone had to have like that's like the basic. You need to have that, and then you were able to buy Game Pass as a subscription thing on top of it, and they have slowly rolled everything into one. So you'd argue that it does make sense, but then they need to realign some of these tiers a little bit to make them more, more just better aligned.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking out the window because some OpenReach fuck just went by, which usually means they try and cut
off the broadband.
Well, he was on his phone when he drove by as well, so I should report him, but there's no kids out there playing. Anyway, yeah, so it's a bit of a hodgepodge. Maybe they'll correct it and whatnot. They will. I'll tell you what will be interesting to look out for, because this will inherently, because they've changed the name of it, will suddenly add millions of Game Pass members. And I wonder, people will expose themselves as being thick, because you'll see in the next numbers when they go up by quite a big amount, you will see people popping champagne bottles. You'll see people saying this proves the growth of. Just keep an eye on the morons that do that, and then cut them out of your life. Is my suggestion. Is how I would do that. One thing I wanted to end on.
Yeah, we
said it's long overdue because Xbox Live's been shite, basically. You know, the game offerings are not there. We're not. What's the point? They have done a masterful job of just sandbagging the service so much that people almost wanted it to go away, even if it's less of a benefit to us. So even us both sitting there saying, "Yeah, good riddance," but that's because they've provided a shit service.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been the base level. I've always just accepted that it's like, you know, the standing charge in electricity, and if you don't use it, you need it. Like you get charged for it anyway. And I was always just one of the things that I resented somewhat anyway, and just paid. Well, I rolled it into Ultimate in the end because I was like, this is ridiculous. It seemed ridiculous to me for paying for two separate things. So I was like, this is nonsense. So I rolled it into Ultimate. And then now they've rolled it in completely. But I agree, like it's, you know, and especially since they, you know, the rise of free games and the fact that you don't need any subscription to pay them, which I think is a good move, but ultimately takes away from what you're paying for naturally. So look, I think, it's become redundant, and rather than going, look, don't worry about that, they're just rolling it up in potentially a higher charge.
Couldn't they? I mean, PlayStation still do well on their bottom tier with games. I know their subscription, their main bulk subscription offering isn't probably as compelling for most people as Game Pass, but
they put all their big hitters from the last gen out and stuff, didn't they? Like all of their Spider-Man and God of War and the remastered versions, nonetheless, and said, have that and have at it for a period of time. So it would have been nice if Xbox would have done something similar. I mean, they didn't have any big hitters. That's part of the problem. But
that's true.
You know what I mean? If they'd have said, here's like an Xbox like classic collection, or however they want to put it, where you had like all the Gears of War, like Halos, and like you could just have that here. And said, look, here's something to ease the pain a little bit. But then everyone will start going, oh, what got Ultimate for? What? And it's so. Yeah, it's. I don't think they should have this many tiers anyway. I think it should be basic and I want to call it ultimate, and then I think essentially you get extra perks. You can have Game Pass Basic, which gives you just the basic Xbox titles. Then you can have Ultimate, which gives you, as you say, the perks, EA Play, and other games that they might want to put on there. So I'd like to see them long term strip out the 4 and just have the 2.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get to that one day. It obviously takes a while for these things to move. I don't know if the branding of Game Pass is now a little bit diluted to me, because Game Pass has always been a very simple concept. It's a library of games that come on each month. It's day one. Now Game Pass means something slightly different, because it means actually it can also mean a static library of old tut, basically, which is a bit of in my opinion, a bit of a branding issue, if nothing else. But they don't give a fuck, do they? So what do we care?
Well, I think the Xbox Live Gold was a branding issue for them
Because anyway, it wasn't called Game Pass in some way.
Yeah, and it's just kind of this legacy thing that they've had left over from the 360. I don't think Live or Gold and Silver, because that was Xbox Live, Gold,
Silver actually. Yeah,
like you had tiers, and then they did away with that, and you just had Gold, and they've kind of now just done away with.
It's telling they don't call this Game Pass Gold because they know it wouldn't fly. Because it ain't a gold service, is it, to have 25 static games? No. But that would have been my preference. They should have created a tier called Game Pass Gold that perhaps was the next one up, and then this could be called whatever, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the name. I just think the service itself is a bit of a rip-off, I think.
Yeah. There we go. That's that. I'm going to end on a controversial topic. This is a follow-up from the last episode. I think it's the last episode, anyway. We won't dwell on it, but I thought just for some continuity. EA explains its decision to add women to Ultimate Team for the first time. Quote, we feel we can really play an important role in the growth of that sport. The most interesting thing about this article to me wasn't necessarily that they're coming out and saying this, because you cannot not say this when these sort of questions are asked, simply as a corporation. Whether they believe it or not, it remains to be seen, but they say all the right things. It's that it confirmed that the Ultimate Team is going to be a hodgepodge. There's going to be... The ladies will not have their own mode. They will be in playing against the males. And I think that's what... When people got their ears on that, obviously it caused some level of noise. And, here's a quote from John Shepherd, executive producer. It's something we really thought deeply about. We feel that we can play a really important role in the growth of that sport, in introducing it to all of our fans. We just have this conviction that we believe we want to unite the world around football. Ultimate Team is a great place for that. It's a mode where you can build your fantasy team of different nationalities, different leagues, different clubs. And so it felt like a great spot to be able to do that. And then Sam Riviera, one of the senior producers, is quoted saying, Ultimate Team is a fantasy mode. You don't see Mbappe playing with all the icons. It's Ultimate Team. It's fantasy football. It's what's happening there. So I do understand the justification for that. The Ultimate Team is not based in any sort of realism. And I suspect when you pick up EA Sports FC 24 and you go in that career mode where you want to build Spurs up from the doldrums, you ain't going to be subjected to signing women or moving around. Maybe you can move around into their leagues. That might be an interesting dynamic, but you're not going to see the cross-pollination of them playing against each other, because we don't see that in the sport and the way it's structured. But just thought I'd get your thoughts on this, because you tend to not like these women.
I'm fine with it. It's just this, like, the thing that concerns.
Everyone's getting ready to clip this and post it around. Sexist.
The simple fact is that the women's product and the level of women's football, and it shouldn't be controversial to say, is not at the level of men's. Right? And that it's just true. There are some really, really good women's footballers, but as Piers Morgan's pointed out, the US women's team, who is notably, I think, accepted to be generically the best women's team in the world, got beat by 15-year-old boys, right? And they didn't just get beat; they got hammered. I think it was like 8 something. Like
you can't play properly against children, can you? If you do a slide tackle on you break their legs.
So I'm just like, as a yardstick of where the women's game is versus the men's, like that's where it is, right? And the simple fact is the women's game isn't developed to a point where the men's is, and I think it is getting there. And there has been significant progress in the past sort of like 5, 6, 7, 8 years with the advent of the World Cups and the Euros and interest and stuff. But it's a different game played differently by a different technical level, right? Yeah. It's like if you go and watch Southend United play, you go, good Lord, what's this?
Well, they won't be playing next season at this rate. They'll be sunk.
Oh, no.
So they won't have to worry about that anymore.
Like, the simple fact of it is the technical capability isn't at a high level. Nothing. It's like trying to, like, where do you put, like, if Southend United played women's men's team, who would win? Based on the data, probably Southend United, right? And a lot of their
can't
players,
even field 11 players.
But they'd be like bronze level players. And no one, unless you're creating specific bronze teams, would want bronze level players. Like, and I think that's just my concern with blending the two more than anything. Is do you then artificially inflate the competitiveness or the abilities of the women, like players? Because the players, the fact that, as far as I understand, and when I used to play Ultimate Team, the the stats carried over. I mean, they create special cards and things like that, but ultimately, if you get so-and-so from here, they'll be the same rated in Ultimate Team. So what you're telling me in the women's game, you're going to have certain women players that are rated like 82, 83, 84, 85, 86 into the 90s.
Maybe.
And then all of a sudden, you're going to have Haaland next to a 90 rated women's player. Like, I think that's for me.
I've seen Maradona running around and he's dead.
Yeah, they can do that, but I just think it just.
But it's nonsense. The mode's nonsense anyway.
The mode is nonsense.
That's what they're saying, basically. The mode is a fantasy nonsense, so why not just let it go full whack? And actually, more recently, AEW Fight Forever, they don't have intergender matches. I mean, no pro wrestling's scripted and whatnot, and it's it's not a real combat sport. So in theory, there's nothing to stop them doing that. But I guess that's from a lens purpose, they don't want to put that out there. But in the game, you can do that. You can.
What about MMA?
Well, none of MMA you can't. Obviously, it's a sport and whatnot, and in real life,
that's
not.
So, So, imagine if that was in MMA.
So you're saying
you've got the female fighters versus the male fighters.
Are we talking in the game here?
Not in real life.
I don't know is the honest answer. They do have a new UFC game coming out this year, which is made by EA.
This is why I'm asking you.
It will be interesting to see what they do, given this. I do think there's a difference in terms of optics of a combat sport where, because you know what will happen? People will pick fucking John Jones. They'll pick a female fighter, and then they'll go in there and just smash them to bits and post it online, and it'll be a bad
but would
loss.
they? So this is the point.
Some people would.
Say he's rate. So this is where it comes down to ratings, right? So to level the playing field, they'll have to say the woman fighter is top of her game versus the men's fighter that's top of his game. If you put them in together, statistically, they would be on a par.
Well,
that's what I'm asking about Ultimate Team and FIFA is because
I think they'll be close. They can't, because they have to make it worthwhile you put them in your team. And
exactly
the main separator. I was going to MMA quickly. The main separator there is they do have weight classes. So my example it doesn't work because you can't even cross pollinate the weight classes. It's a bit more stringent, that game. But no, going back to the football side of things, I can only imagine there'll be some level playing field. There'll be a window of stats of peak and minimum, and they'll be in and amongst players that are seemingly within their realm of sport. So a top class female footballer will be treated as such in terms of the ratings, is how I would presume it's going to go. But
so it has to be a leveling of the playing field essentially to allow for it. Yeah, and that's either by reducing.
But like I said, Maradona's running around with 90 stats. He can't. He ain't moving anymore.
No. I'm just saying, like that's that's reflecting the ability of Maradona, not Madonna. She ain't playing.
Did I say Madonna? Did I say Madonna?
No, I think I did. But essentially, what you're doing is
she's still alive.
The issue that I've
right.
Somehow. But essentially, there's a leveling of the playing field, and I think that's not fair to women either, because you don't want to be making a concession on that basis to say come in. It's kind of like they should be reflected on their own merit. And I think part of the problem with that is then that they're not quite at that level of men yet. So I think
the simple fact is they won't be. I won't say never, but every athletic sport generally that requires a high level of physical output. Yeah. The athletics, you can see in all the records, there's a change. In very few circumstances will there be a female kind of record that's above a men's record, because that's just how humans are built.
Yeah, well, you can't be making those sort of outrageous claims in 2023. But
it's been said.
No, I think that's. I'm not against it in any way. Like, I'm glad that there's recognition of the women's game and how it's come on, and they're in the game and stuff. Like, I'm fine with that. But I think trying to cross-pollinate it without doing this leveling is going to be tricky. So I expect there will be some sort of leveling of some sort. And I think to see. We go back to realism and the fact that Pele's been roaming around and all that. Like, I get it, but
he's still alive, isn't he?
No, I'm going to say no. If not, he's definitely on his last legs.
December 2022.
Yeah, I thought he'd gone. I think execution. What we're boiling it down to is execution. It's not principle; it's execution of how they do it. The thing is, is it for a game it goes back to that question: is it for a game to drive like adoption or interest or move it forward, or is it for the product to improve to gain interest? I think that's an interesting perspective that EA are taking on it.
Yeah, I mean, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't at this stage, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you don't have them in the ladies in there, there's going to be a contingent of people saying why not. You've got dead people in there and whatnot running around. This mode is not a simulation. It's purely a gameplay and online mode. And then on the other side of things, if you do add them in, you open up these cans of worms. And you also, I mean, I go back to my example. I'd say what would happen in the UFC game. I can see people with teams that have female footballers in it that the other team will just target the women and try and hack them. They'll just, do you know what I mean? There'll be like this sort of undertone of, right, get them out of the game. I don't think you get injuries.
What happened
when
you get the female linos and stuff like that? It's just just abuse for the sake of abuse. Essentially,
it's something they're going to have to keep an eye on. They do mention this in the article, saying that it's something we really take seriously, obviously, and it's an ongoing thing. It's a constant effort. We have a team within EA fully focused on toxicity and understanding what's happening in the game. We are moving some newer systems, even for this next game, where we're using some new services to help us monitor names. So they're going to try and do something about it, but that's going to expose people to that, I think, and you're going to see that.
But, have they been doing this for racism and all this kind of why specifically for women?
I think they are. I think they're just saying because they're now introducing this new opportunity for people to, it
changes the dynamic for sure.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be more opportunity for people who want to make whether it's an anti-women statement or whatever, they can now kind of live that out in real time by,
it's the sexists of this world
thundering into them. But I'll be interested to see the stats when they come out, to your point, and see how they are handling it. Because, again, there'll be a contingent of people that say it should be rated as highly, and some that obviously disagree with that, and they've now got to deal with both sides, and neither side will be happy with how they do it. So,
I mean, I think the way that they'd have to do it is say, look, relative to the competition, this player is 92 rated. Like, this player is 93 rated. Like, relative to the competition they play in.
Yeah.
That's the only way they could do it, because otherwise you're going to have a team of women players or female players that are bronze rated, essentially, and nobody's going to want to play with them. So to make them playable and enjoyable to play with, they're going to have to make them higher rated and then to be able to bung them into Ultimate Team in the same way. So that's what I would expect them to do.
Yeah.
But... yeah, I mean, I ain't going to play it, so it's not something that I'm particularly invested in. Like,
he won't play it because there's women in it. Unbelievable.
Trying to look at the last one I've got here: FIFA 13, FIFA 15. Basically, I ain't bought one. God knows how long.
Almost a decade. Yeah. So I haven't either. I used to take up a huge amount of my gaming time, but not so much anymore. Anyway. We've annoyed everyone from every spectrum today, so mission accomplished. We'll be back probably next week. We'll see how things. See how things go. I have to rearrange actually because I'll be away. So we did agree some sort of plan which I've forgotten. So we'll suss it all out and try and get something out to you. But if there's an emergency no episode, I'll probably tweet it or whatever. But everyone's going to be treated to Tinykin now. Okay.
Oh, topical.
Exactly. Get in with the Pikmin. So it's me and Logan again. So you'll have a little transition, and then we'll be back. But we will see you all on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game impressions to close out this week's Idle Game Chat. This time, Logan is brought to us Tinykin. An unbelievable game, some are saying. Independent developers here. Splash Team is the name. I've done some research because I must admit I'd never heard of this company or this set of developers, and I'm led to believe they developed this Tinykin. And another game called Splasher. So, if we're starting to edge towards cards on the table, had you previously played Splasher, or were you aware of Splash Team as a developer?
No, absolutely not. No, it's literally just a case of I usually do a quick scan of the old Game Pass to see what's due to be the next thing. I always like to make sure I know what's coming on and what's going off.
Yes.
And then if it's going off, I think, right, well, maybe I might have to play that. And there are certain things that crop up when you're looking at what's coming on. And this was just one of those things. And I went, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a great thing about Game Pass. I know we've already sort of elapsed into the cards on the table. Obviously, I played this on my Series X with Game Pass.
Yeah.
This is a great little thing. You can play little things like this, which might otherwise not get played.
Yeah. Yeah, you can jump in. The risk is just your time, because unlike me, I don't know actually about you, I'm making assumptions, but I am, right, play it, finish it, whatever the weather. I don't know where you sit on that, whether you'll boot something up on Game Pass and then go, yeah, this wasn't what I thought it was, I'm going to walk away after 2-3 hours, or are you now fall into the trap of, well, I'll just see it through?
Yeah, so I'm not full on Ronnie where I have to see everything through that I started, and I'm not full on Biff where I'll just drop everything if I've played it for 20 minutes and it ain't what I want. Like, so I normally, I like to say I've got a happy medium somewhere in the middle. Like if it's really not my thing, I'm quite happy to go, I'm not enjoying this, I'll drop it.
Yeah.
Like I did it with Forza, funnily enough. I think I downloaded Forza and I was like...
Which one? Horizon?
Yeah. The latest Horizon, I picked that up and went, I'm not really enjoying this. I'm not really up for it. So I just deleted it and I went, if I do want to come back and play it, I will. But
well, there's no end credits on that game. So it's one of those things where there is I guess there's a last sort of showcase, but it will not say, right, there's your credits. You can, well, it's one of those jobbies where you're like, well, have I done it? So you're going to have to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm pretty good at drawing a line under things. So I go, right, I've done what I wanted to do, what I set out to do, that's acceptable, walk away. It really does depend on what it is. I mean, some of these kind of, I'd say, smaller games that I play, they're generally a lot shorter. So you can kind of just go, well, I might as well see it through because I know I'm not going to be here for that long anyway. Spiritfarer being the exception to the rule.
Yes.
But
that is one where it was ground out. Well, let's get into... I'll read out the store page or an extract from it, because some of these store pages are fucking long. I don't need that. Just one paragraph and some bullet points. So I'll go as far as I can be bothered to go. Yeah. So this is what they've chucked out on the Xbox store page as I look at it. Milo arrives on Earth to find that he's way too small. Everybody's gone and the day hasn't passed since 1991. Team up with the mysterious Tinykin and use their unique powers to create ladders, bridges, explosions, and a lot more. Find a way home through a sprawling ant-sized metropolis and unravel Earth's biggest mystery. So, nice little setup there. Doesn't really go too much into the gameplay, although those that have seen videos of it or looked at it, to me it looked like a Pikmin type game where you've got these little minions running around, you can direct them, but I'll let you correct me. But is that setup there of Milo arriving on Earth accurate? Is that the long and short of it? And that there's potentially a mystery for us to get involved with?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be quite frank at the outset of this. The story is non-existent to zero. I mean, the narrative that surrounds
he's got a name, Milo.
I know, but
91
honestly,
retro.
It chucked you right in there. So basically, and this ain't even a spoiler, he's from the future and he's fucking about trying to figure out what happened to... It's from another planet and he's trying to figure out what happened to the humans.
Yeah.
So he creates this machine and it basically just blasts him back. The thing is, it's weird because it puts him back, as you say, into this 90s setting.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of humans there.
Right.
And but the rooms are human size.
Yeah.
But all these rooms that you go through have insects in. And as you say, when it says it's ant size, you're literally... So not only have you as an adult male human gone back to the past, you're also now the size of an ant.
So it's almost a bit of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids mixed with Pikmin. Well, I think that's the idea of Pikmin, actually. You're small in that, actually. That's not necessarily unique, but...
But I get the feeling that they come up with the idea for the game before the story, and they created this story to suit the idea of the game. That's how I would kind of position it. So yeah, that kind of chucks you in. It kind of just has this introductory storyline, and it's a bit confusing, weirdly, because if you haven't, it doesn't explain it very well. So you kind of just figure out that something's happened, it went wrong,
Yeah.
and now you're the size of a pea, and now you're trying to figure it all out again. So yeah, it's a bit odd.
That's a nice little hook to me, though. I quite like the idea of that you're going back to 91 and something's potentially gone wrong with Earth, and there's like a little mystery to unfold. But did it?
Well, it doesn't even insinuate that anything's gone wrong with Earth. Like, this is what I mean. You just go back, and this is just the existence.
Just a bit empty.
Yeah, there's just this empty house. But I'm pretty sure there's picture frames of humans. Like, this is what I mean. It's there's no real definition to the story. It just kind of creates this narrative, and then you just go, well, I'll see what happens then.
Well, it says one of the little bullet points, meet characters everywhere you go and learn their stories and history. So we're criticising narratives, and yet they're saying there's all sorts of heavy-hitting characters to meet and finding out their rich backstory, lore.
Yeah, so, yeah, again, I know we're still getting ahead of it, but there, to be fair, there is a surprising amount of NPCs.
Okay. And what are these? Like bugs, or are they little humans, or are they little things, or are they weird things?
They're all like humanized bugs. I don't know what that means. I can't think of the specific word.
I know what you
like
mean, yeah.
Upright, like they've got like human personas, but they're bugs. So they'll be like,
right.
I think one's silverfish, one's like they're like different ones. One of them's like ants. Like there's just different types of insect in each room. I think there's grasshoppers. Yeah, I still, and it might be me, I just might not have been paying attention, but I just don't understand why. Like, it's just confusing. But it's like, the only thing that I could surmise is that for some reason, the human race just stopped in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then this, but it doesn't look like hugely derelict. Like, it doesn't look like everything's fucked, or there's like
just
a nuclear bomb.
Perhaps people just vanished one day, and they was doing something, and then it just went, oh, they're gone, something like that.
Yeah,
it feels like, but there's no like nuclear war that's torn the Earth apart, seemingly, or any evidence of that. So it says 1991. I mean, I doubt your memory goes back that far, but we were unbelievably alive back then, just to sort of age us to the audience. Does it feel like they got that part of it right? Like, does it feel like a early 90s aesthetic in terms of like you might see items and you're like, oh yeah, that looks like what I remember from the early 90s. Like, you're not going to see flat screen TVs up on the wall and things like that. Have they got that part of it right, given the restrictions they've got on the art style and what they can pump into it?
Yeah. So there's the old box TVs, and there's like stereo systems and things that you just.
Is there any Walkmans lying around?
I don't remember a Walkman, but there was like videotapes and things. Like there was those elements to it. I mean, it's not. It wasn't. I mean, if you're getting that wrong and you position it then you're really struggling.
You've created a restriction and then not been able to fulfil the the time zone.
So and even like down to the toys. There's one of the rooms is like obviously a child's bedroom, and it's all like a race. It's like Scalextrics in there, and like a castle and all these sort of different things. Like
walls filled with blue tack, like my room was. Just
I don't think there had that
honestly, I don't know why people let people like me get away with that, like my dad and that. Like the wall was ruined, like for all that blue tack from posters. Like you can't repair. That's it. You have to rip the whole thing up and start again.
Yeah, but you went to the extreme where pretty much one of the whole of your walls was literally full of posters.
That's because my brother had already damaged the wall. So all I was doing was papering over the damage that was there. Like,
you're creating a new canvas.
I was, yeah. And then obviously the posters fall down the night. What a nightmare! I mean, bloody blue tack.
I remember when
banned.
At my house we had Artex on the walls. I don't know if you ever experienced Artex, but I remember putting posters up on my wall. Whenever I tried to take the blue tack off, it literally ripped the Artex off with it. So there's all these like hole shapes like about this big in the wall.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh god.
To be honest, I've stuck a sticker up on this wall and I went to take it off, and it took off, half what it was stuck onto, and I was like, well, I'll just stick over that now. So I'm sort of making the same mistakes, but with different kind of areas. Anyway, digression. So what's the? So I mentioned that it looks to me like a bit of a Pikmin game. I don't know if you've ever played those games or just seen them or heard people speaking about them, but
I have heard people.
Yeah. So what's this? How's Tinykin work? Is there a timer on some of the levels or anything like that? Is it just controlling these little minions and getting them to help you out? What's the sort of loop and then I guess progression in terms of puzzles? Because it must be a puzzle game at heart, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, this game is very relaxed. It's a very kind of casual game. It's one that they've built for you to, I think, enjoy the environment and just sort of go through at your leisure. Which is why it kind of appealed to me, because I was like, it's no stress palette cleansing here. Yeah, it's ideal. So the idea is that there's kind of these objectives or puzzles that you need to solve in the room to get to the end to get an objective to kind of move on to the next room. Yeah. So you need to collect, I think, 5 or 6 different elements to this to basically create this machine, which is supposed to help you get back to your world. So, right. And so Milo's already regretting arriving. He's like arrived and gone, this is a bad idea. I need to get back. Yeah, like, I've created this machine, gone back and thought, nah, that was silly. Well, I don't think this is what I mean. It's very woolly, so I don't think he intended
to end up here.
To end up like, I don't think it was a time machine. I think he was trying to travel.
Okay, and he ended up in this situation.
Yeah,
right,
so I think he's like, right, I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
So the idea of each room is to get kind of this master part, and to do that, you need to solve these puzzles for the insects in that room. And there's normally, a number of things to do, but you use the Tinykin to solve the puzzles. So some of the Tinykin explodes. You need to blow things up with a certain amount of Tinykin. Some of them create bridges. Some of them sort of you can like boost yourself up. So you chuck them underneath you and they lift you up to get to different platforms and stuff. So they're basically...
Sounds a little bit like Lemmings as well. They've got little abilities, each of them.
Yeah, so each of the different Tinykins are all just lying around on the floor. So you kind of have to, when you go into the level, kind of go and mop them all up and
pick them up, and they'll follow you.
And then as you go, you can kind of figure out where the puzzles are, what you need to do, what Tinykin you need to then be able to come back and do that puzzle. The puzzles are not difficult. It basically relies on you just getting the right amount of Tinykin. So I have to say, like, the hard part sometimes is actually finding the puzzle rather than doing it.
Right.
Ridiculous. But like by far the best thing about the game, I think, is like how you traverse the worlds, like the movement of Milo and everything, and you can kind of glide around. He's got this like gliding ability with a bubble, which you can upgrade so that it goes on for longer, and you can kind of jump and glide around.
Skateboard, I'm reading here. Is that like is skateboard? Is that correct?
Well, you can kind of
skateboard around on Milo's tiny soapboard. Jump, grind, and hover around the house.
Yes, you can run, but you can then sort of basically get out this board which lets you slide around. Obviously, you can't slide uphill.
No,
it lets you slide like horizontally and downward. Which just basically allows you to traverse the environment a bit quicker, because you find yourself sort of going back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's only 5 or 6 sort of levels or rooms, as they are, different rooms of the house. There's like a bathroom, a bedroom, a kitchen. You go on the landing. And you basically have to solve the puzzles in each of the rooms to then get to the end room, to then build this thing at the end, which kind of takes you to the loft, which is kind of the end.
Gotcha.
The end of the story. But really, the game is, it's about enjoying the environment, solving the puzzles, collecting the Tinykin, and it's kind of a completionist game, I would say. I mean, I didn't complete it. I think I got to about 700 Gs out of 1,000. So there's a couple left. But I think there's like a load of this pollen, it's called, but basically it's like collecting the coins in Mario.
Yeah.
The idea is that you kind of go around and collect all of the pollen in each of the areas, kind of a completionist thing. And there's some extra little challenges you can do for certain bugs that are in every room. So there's some like little completionist challenges to do. But yeah, it's pretty much go in the room, complete all the challenges, move on to the next one.
Nice. So story was finished, but a few hundred G off getting the full collectathon run that's on offer there.
Yeah.
Can these Tinykin die? Is there a threat in the world, or is it simply feet up and it's the only enemy you've got is your own time because you can take as long as you want? No enemies at all. Okay. Well, that's that is definite palate cleansing feet up territory, isn't it? Because there's no stress there.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that, to be honest. The main enemy is height, so you can't just fall.
Right.
It's like it's environmental.
Yeah.
I would say so. There's certain things like you can't swim. So if you fall in water at all, then it's literally game over.
Yeah.
But beyond that, yeah, there's no. I'm trying to think now. I'm pretty sure there was there's no enemy.
No threat to wander
no
around.
threat.
Interesting. What did you like about this game? What do you like about old Tinykin, if anything? You might say don't like any of it.
No, it was the environment was really good, and traversing the environment and solving some of the puzzles and everything were satisfying.
Controls nice and solid for what it's asking you to do.
Yeah, like as I say, it's really smooth. It's really nice to control and everything. It's not, there's no bugs or anything that I can really think about. Yeah. Ironic term there, by the way, bugs. When there's losing, it's
clever.
But no, it's literally it's a nice game to play. Like it's very relaxing. It allows you to enjoy the environment they've created, and if you want, there's plenty of NPCs you can go up and talk to. They don't have huge. It's like you press X on them or whatever it is, and it sort of just comes out with a little blurb. But some of them have got like their own little things going on and stuff, and yeah, it's nice to. It's just interesting just to explore. I mean, it's very shallow.
Yeah.
Don't go in there expecting this huge lorry.
Where's my RPG elements and my upgrades and buffs and debuffs and status effects? Come on. Yeah. Yes. Everything has to have systems on top of systems on top of systems. It has to.
And you could easily ignore it all.
Yeah.
And just go and do all the puzzles. Like you would be missing a huge amount. No. But it's just a nice environment. Like the environments are very well thought out, and how using the Tinykin is satisfying as well.
How do you direct them? Do you like walk around with the left stick and then use the right stick to sort of aim a cursor and say right, go and do that?
Yeah. So it's kind of like it'll tell you what it needs to be able to do it. So some of the explodey ones, it'll say I need 10 explodey ones on this. And you literally you just sort of look in its rough direction. It auto locks, and you can just sort of run around and throw them at it. Like there's no.
Suicide. Tinykin.
This is what I mean. There's no real thought process into which of the Tinykin you need. It all just does all that for you. It tells you what it needs and how many it needs. It's mainly about you going to get the Tinykin that you need for that then just to do whatever it needs to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do certain things in order. Right. Like you have to go, so it introduces complexity. A bit of a curveball in terms because you're just used to just going at things in any way, shape, or form, and you go, I need to do X or Y first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really not a complex puzzle game compared to some of these other kind of indie style games, indie puzzlers that I've played before. They can almost make it where it's like impossible to do without a guide.
Yeah. They get so far up their own arse. The two things they do is make puzzles just ridiculously difficult and obtuse, and the other one, which is normally separate or sometimes it's combined, is to make the game really hard. And you're like, well, I didn't want either of these things, and you've added potentially both. And Tinykin on the opposite end of that scale, which is good. Anything you didn't like, or it seems like a harmless. Like this is the thing. Some of the games we play, and we're like, there's a critical flaw to it, or I was expecting this, I wanted this. With a game like Tinykin, the expectations are pretty much low, so you can just sort of go in and enjoy what it's going to offer. But was there anything that you thought, well, that could be tightened up on? If they did a second one, I'd like to see them improve on that, or if they patched it, whatever. Anything that may be on the negative side that you want to call out?
No, I mean it's on the whole, it's a really satisfying game to play. you kind of get used to the loop quite quickly. I think when it dumps you in first, you're kind of used, as you say, to going, where's the enemies, where's this, what's going on, sort of thing. And it kind of, after the first level, I'd say, you kind of then go, right, I'm in the loop of it now. I know what you kind of want from me.
Yeah.
I think just a little bit more depth from it, in a weird kind of way, or some kind of additional challenge in the puzzles. I mean, I like the simplicity of the puzzles, but if the game went on any longer, you'd kind of be a bit bored of it, I think, because you find it a bit simplistic. So I think overall, just a bit more depth to it. And it's really hard to criticise it because it is what it is. But that'd be the one thing that I'd probably ask from it, is just to either deepen that narrative or to just deepen the experience a little bit.
Lovely. Any other business before formalities start to get introduced and structures have to be adhered to?
No, I mean it really is what it is. It's it's a nice little game.
Yeah.
It's not stressful.
No.
It's you just kind of get to experience this little world.
Yeah.
And solve a few little puzzles and go on your merry way. I mean, if you really want to do it, I'm sure you could do it in a shorter time than I did, which was I think just over 9 hours I spent on it. So it's really not a long game, even if you're doing a bit of faffing.
Yeah.
I think I basically did everything other than collecting all the pollen bits. And there's probably a few other bits I could do that I didn't really know about as well. But it's just a nice little game. It's not really what I expected in a weird kind of way. I expected something. I think it's because, and I know I don't think we've released it yet, but the Supraland experience I had was kind of a bit of an opposite to this one. So if this comes out first, which it probably will, that will probably lead into an interesting discussion about Supraland. But that's a puzzle-based game as well, and that wasn't what I expected on the other side of the scale. So, it's just interesting. It's just an interesting little experience to have.
Lovely. Well, look, let's get to this gaming gallery. We're outside the door. Pub's waiting, so you can just walk away at this stage and say, look, sorry, Tinykin. Look, I had a good time with you for 9 hours, but I don't want you up in my wing in the gaming gallery. Prestigious gaming gallery, sort of tarnishing it with your short narrative and your lack of depth. Or you can say, no, look, Tinykin, I want to put it in there and recognise my enjoyment of this game and give Splash Team a little pat on the back. Are we going to unlock the doors of this gaming gallery, or is it time to walk away?
Yeah, I think we will unlock it. Yeah.
Well, let's wander in, get to Logan's personal wing, where all of the games that he has enjoyed over time are displayed beautifully. Where are you going to plonk old Tinykin in this exhibition of yours that you've created? You've got the platinums, you've got the golds, you've got the silvers, and of course the bronzes.
Yeah, so
big pressure now.
I've toyed with this because it's quite a difficult one to allocate because of what it is.
Yeah.
But I think it should go in bronze.
Crapped on it.
No,
we've had all this before. That's not.
Yeah. No, I did enjoy my just over 9 hours in it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad to say it doesn't deserve to go in the gallery.
No.
But it's just not got enough about it, I think, to push it up into the sort of silvers of this world. So I think, as I said, with a bit more depth to it, it could probably have even gone a bit higher.
Well, look, Splash Team will be happy with that. It's in the gallery. That's all that matters to them. And if people ever wander around, they'll see that it's sitting there with a lovely little bronze recognition from you. So they can take it to the bank. Well, look, we won't labour this particular point, but Tinykin earns itself a bronze recognition from Logan, which now proudly sits in his Dimp digital gaming gallery wing. But there's nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.